Like any good explorer or craftsman, we need to know our tools and what they can do. We'll explore all these in more depth down the road, but let's get an overview here of the painting and retouching tools. These are used for enhancing and modifying bitmap images. Bitmaps are comprised of a collection of colored pixels or dots that make up the image we can see. We can modify large portions of a bitmap image at once, or even work at microscopic level with individual pixels. While there are several groupings of paint tools in the tool palette, in this video we're going to focus on the healing tools, which consist of the spot healing brush tool, the removal tool, the healing brush tool, the patch tool, content aware move tool, and the red eye tool. I'm going to choose the spot healing brush. Now, most of these painting tools use brushes, and on the options bar we have a little drop down here for our brushes. We're going to focus right now on size and hardness, so I can increase the size of the brush. You see my brush over here on the pear. And I'm going to use the spot healing brush to get rid of this fly on the pear. But notice I can make the slider to give myself a bigger brush or a smaller brush. Now here's a little tip. You can use the bracket keys to change the brush size. So if I use the right bracket key, I increase the brush size, and the left bracket, I can shrink it. The hardness refers to the edge. So completely hard, you're going to get a very distinct edge, where if it's soft, it's going to give you a very feathered edge. We can also change the brush roundness and do spacing with the brush. In fact, there are ways to create all kinds of custom brushes of various shapes and sizes and jitters and colors, color jitter, all kinds of things with the brushes. We're going to look a lot more into painting in Unit 6. So we're basically going to focus right now with just a round brush, changing the size and the hardness. I'm going to set this at about 65%. And what I'm going to do with this, with the spot healing brush, is I am going to increase it so that it's bigger than the fly. And I want to get just sort of still stay. I want to still stay within the pulp of the pear. But when I click that area, it's going to take the surrounding area and blend that together, and the fly now has disappeared. Here's another use. I have this gentleman with a scar, and I can begin to get rid of the scar a little bit at a time. And this, again, this kind of goes to the magic of Photoshop. So it blends in everything within that brush. And of course, a popular use of this is to get rid of pimples and acne. So that's the spot healing brush. The remove tool is a brand new tool introduced in April of 2023. It uses some of the artificial intelligence built into Photoshop these days and allows us to remove artifacts. And it does a fairly decent job of it. It's fairly new, so I can't guarantee the results, and you have to experiment a little bit. But let's take the remove tool. I'm going to get rid of this sign over here. I'm going to take a little bit larger brush. I'm just going to paint the area I want to get rid of, just kind of going over top of it. Let go of the mouse. And remove the sign. It did a pretty good job of it. Now I'm going to get rid of this vehicle back here and the person standing there. And I'm going to use a fairly large brush. I'll come back and get this little bit area in between the fender and the wheel separately. But I'm just going to brush in basically the area that I want to get rid of. Again, let go of the mouse, and let's see how it does with that. That did a pretty amazing job. Now I'm going to make my brush much smaller using the left bracket, and I'm just going to get rid of this little bit of white area of that van that was in between the fender and the wheel. That did really well. I also want to get rid of these power lines and this power pole. So I'll get rid of the power pole here first.
over it a second time. I'll start over here on the right-hand side. This next one's a little bit trickier because we got the windows in here. We'll see if the AI recognizes the windows and does a good job of keeping them. And it did a really good job. The last thing I want to get rid of is this little antenna up here. And again, I'm going to brush a little bit larger, and we'll get rid of that. I'm going to go over some other areas. I'm not sure. This is kind of a blurred area. You really can't tell what it is, but let's just see what happens if we got rid of this little artifact here. That looks really good. And then maybe this one here as well. So it took several steps, but really allows us to get rid of portions of the image or artifacts we don't want pretty easily. So that's the new Remove tool. Our next tool is the Healing Brush tool. The Healing Brush tool allows us to sample from an area of our image as a source and then duplicate those pixels in another area of the image. Prior to the new removal tool, I would have used it to remove artifacts. I'm going to use it here to get rid of the boat. So I've chosen the Healing Brush tool. For mode, I'm choosing Replace. And again, we're going to use a brush. And I'm working on just the current layer, but you could sample from one layer and duplicate onto another layer. We'll talk about layers later on. I'm going to choose a source over here to the right of the boat, where I'm going to duplicate these pixels here on top of the boat. So coming over, I'm going to hold down the Alt key and I get a little crosshairs. I'm going to say I want to sample basically from there and then come over to the boat. And let's get a little bit larger brush. And I'm simply going to paste in. So it's sampling from the area over here, and might redo this a little bit more. This kind of comes in the top into that green area. So I'm going to sample again and just kind of come back over here. And now we've gotten rid of the boat. Now obviously I could have done that with the Remove tool, probably easier. Go back to my original image. Let's take the Remove tool. With the Remove tool, all we're doing is simply painting in the area you want to get rid of. And voila, that does a great job. However, there's another use of the Healing Brush tool, and that is to duplicate an area where I may want to add in another balcony and arch with these two and replace this window with a balcony and arch. I'm just going to zoom in so it's a little bit easier to do this. And so again, I'm going to take the Healing Brush tool and go a little bit smaller brush, hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to duplicate where this column is, right at the base of the column. That's going to become my source. I'm down the Alt key and clicking, and then coming over here, I'm just simply going to line this up and begin to paint. So it's duplicating pixels from the right and adding them over here on the left. And I might just need to do a little bit of some cleanup here. I'm just going to sample from here and come over. And now we've added in that third balcony. If I zoom out, that looks really good. So that is the healing brush tool. Sampling from a source and then painting over the target area with the pixels from the source. The patch tool is another option for us to copy a portion of the image to another portion. It really kind of works the opposite of the healing brush tool in that when we choose the patch tool, we can select an area that we want to modify and then drag over to the area we want to duplicate. You can do a Control D or Command D on the Mac to hide the marching ants, and there we've easily added in another window. So as I mentioned, there's often more than one way to do the same thing, and the appropriate tool may depend on your image itself or also your comfortability with each of the tools. The Content Aware Move tool allows us to select an area and move it and have the original area filled in based on the content around it, again using some artificial intelligence. I find this tool works okay sometimes, and other times doesn't really work very well at all. I think there's probably some better ways to accomplish this, but let's show you what the tool is meant to do. So I've selected the Content Aware tool. What I want to do is I want to herd these two cows. I'm going to bring the cow on the left a little further over to the cow on the right. Take the Content Aware tool, I'm going to lasso around my cow. And I missed a little bit of the ear on the left, but that's okay, you'll get the idea. So now I've selected it, I can then come in and just move it to where I want it to go. Press the Enter key. It will move the cow there and then fill in the area behind the cow. Now again, notice I missed part of the ear here, so actually I'm going to see if I can just grab that and bring it back over. And there's a little bit area here that didn't quite do a very good job in terms of the Content Aware. A couple things I can do is maybe go back and use the patch tool. So I use these tools in conjunction. So I'm just going to come here, get that area, let's try to patch that, and a little bit over here as well. I'm not getting that hard edge. That's not bad. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. But that's what the Content Aware Move tool does. You've probably had the experience of taking a flash photo of somebody and their eyes can't constrict before the flash goes off, and the red blood in the choroid of the eyes causes a red pigment captured by the lens, replacing the eyes. Our next tool is the one to fix that, and that is the red eye tool. Very simply, with the red eye tool, all you do is take the little crosshairs and click in the eye, and it will fix the color of the eye to what it should be. That simple. We've looked at all the healing tools briefly in this video. We haven't explored all the options for each of those. We could go much more in depth on each of them, but I wanted to give you an overview of how those tools work, and we'll explore some of these more in Unit 6 and maybe some others along the way. But you can also do more research. If you search for these in YouTube or in Google, you're going to find lots more information on each of these different tools. In the next video, we'll look at the brush tools, including the brush tool, the pencil tool, the color replacement tool, and the mixer brush tool. If you'd like to see more videos in the Photoshop Practicum playlist, click the title at the bottom. If you'd like to be alerted to new videos, please click my photo in the top right to subscribe to the channel.